Welcome to this beginner-friendly lab. Today, we will learn how to recover the root password on a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 10 server. Here's the scenario. You have a server, but the root password is lost. Nobody can log in to administer it. Good news, you do not need to reinstall the operating system. In about 10 minutes, from the boot menu, you can set a brand new root password. One important note before we start. This is the official recovery procedure, and it is a core skill for Linux administrators. Use it only on systems you own, on your lab virtual machines, or on systems you are authorized to administer. Never on systems you do not own. You will need console access to the machine, either physically, through the virtual machine console, or through out-of-band management. And you need permission to reboot. If the disk is encrypted with LUKS, you must know the LUKS passphrase. Let's understand how this works, and then do it step by step. Let's look at the big picture. A normal boot works like this. The firmware starts, then grub, the boot menu, appears. Grub loads the kernel and the init ramfs. Then systemd starts all services, and finally you get the login prompt. To recover the password, we interrupt this flow at grub. We edit the kernel command line and add a parameter that says init equals /bin/bash. This tells the kernel to start a bash shell instead of systemd. The shell starts before the normal login system, so no password is ever asked. We get a root prompt immediately. One very important RHEL 10 detail. In older versions, RHEL 8 and 9, administrators used a trick called RD break. It dropped them into a shell in the init ramfs. In RHEL 10, the init ramf is changed, and RD break now lands in emergency mode, which asks for the root password. Completely useless when the password is what you lost. So on RHEL 10, the supported method is init equals /bin/bash. That is what this lab teaches. Step 1. Reboot the system and interrupt the grub menu. From a working session, if you have one, type sudo space reboot. But watch the console closely, because grub is fast. The grub menu is the boot menu that lists every installed kernel. On RHEL, it appears for only about 5 seconds before it boots the default entry automatically. As soon as you see the menu, press the up arrow, the down arrow, or the escape key. This stops the countdown, and grub waits for you. There is no rush anymore. If you see entries like Red Hat Enterprise Linux, with a kernel version like 6.12, you are in the right place. The top entry is usually the newest kernel, and that is the one we want. Do not let the system auto-boot. Interrupt it, and you are ready for the next step. Step 2. Edit the boot entry. Use the arrow keys to highlight the top kernel entry and press the letter E for edit. Grub opens the entry as editable text. Now find the line that starts with the word Linux. On some UEFI systems, it starts with Linux EFI. This line contains the kernel and all its options. Move your cursor to the end of the line. We will make 2 changes. First, change RO to RW. RO means read only. RW means read write. We want the root file system mounted read write so that we can change the password file later. Second, at the very end of the line, add a space and type init equals /bin/bash. This is the magic parameter. The line now ends with init equals /bin/bash. Everything else on the line stays exactly the same. Be careful while typing. One wrong letter and the boot will fail. Take your time, check both changes, and then move to the next step. Step 3. Boot into the recovery shell. Press Ctrl+X or the F10 key to boot with the edited line. The kernel starts, and instead of systemd, it starts bash. After a short moment, you get a root shell prompt that looks like bash-5.2 hash. That hash at the end means you are root. Notice that no password was asked. This is exactly what we wanted. A few things to remember. This change is temporary. It applies only to this one boot. Grub's saved configuration is not touched. A normal reboot later returns to standard booting, so do not worry about leaving your system broken. You are now in a special recovery environment. The root file system is already mounted read-write because we changed RO to RW. In the next step, we will set the new password. Step 4. Set the new root password. Because we used RW in the kernel line, the root file system is already writable. But just in case, if you ever see that it is read-only, run mount space -o space remount, RW space /. This remounts the root file system with write access. Now run the password command. Pass wd space root. It will ask for a new password and then ask you to retype it. Important. Nothing appears on screen while you type. That is normal. The terminal hides the characters. When it succeeds, you will see pass wd : all authentication tokens updated successfully. Choose a strong password, at least 12 characters, with a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols, and write it down somewhere safe this time. One extra note. If your server runs in FIPS mode, pass wd will enforce the FIPS password policy, so use a policy-compliant password or the command will refuse. Step 5. Handle SE Linux and continue the boot. Here is the subtle part that trips up many beginners. We changed the file that stores passwords, /etc/shadow, outside of the normal boot process. SE Linux keeps a security label on every file, and that label on the shadow file may now be wrong. If we do nothing, SE Linux will block login, even with the correct password. The fix is a full relabel. Type touch space /autorelabel. This creates a trigger file that tells SE Linux to relabel the entire file system on the next boot. Then continue the boot with exec space /sbin/init. The system starts normally, and then you will see the message, warning, SE Linux relabel in progress. The relabel takes 5 to 15 minutes on a large system. Do not interrupt it. Do not power off. Let it finish, and it will boot to the login prompt. Forgetting the auto relabel step is the #1 reason the new password still will not work. Step 6. Verify the recovery. The system finishes booting and shows the login prompt. Log in as root with your new password. Then run the ID command to confirm you are root. You should see UID equals 0, root. Next, check the password state with password space -s space root. The output shows that the password is set and when it was changed. If you manage this server over the network, test an SSH login from another machine too. Then confirm that your services are running normally, for example with systemctl space status. Finally, 2 good habits. Document the new password in your password manager. And consider working with sudo and a regular user account for daily tasks, keeping root only for emergencies. The recovery is complete. Your RHEL 10 server is back in your hands, with no reinstall and no data loss. Let's talk about Plan B and common problems. If you cannot reach the GRUB menu at all, for example if GRUB is broken or password protected, boot from the RHEL installation media. Choose Troubleshooting, then rescue a Red Hat Enterprise Linux system. The installer finds your installation and mounts it under /mnt/sysimage. Then run chroot space /mnt/sysimage. Then pass wd root, then touch.autorelabel. Then exit and reboot. What about encrypted disks? If your disk uses LUKS encryption, the system will ask for the LUKS passphrase. You must know it. Encryption is designed to stop exactly this kind of attack. What about RD break? That classic method still works on RHEL 8 and 9, but on RHEL 10, it asks for the root password. Do not use it there. If login still fails after the reset, the usual cause is a missing relabel. Boot into recovery again, run touch/.autorelabel, and reboot. Or fix just the one file with restorcon space -v space /etc/shadow. That is faster than a full relabel. Finally, security and a summary. Remember that anyone with console access can perform this recovery, so defend your systems. First, protect Grub with a password using sudo space grub2 space set password. This blocks editing of boot entries. Second, set a firmware password in the UEFI settings so nobody can boot from other media. Third, restrict who can reach the console with locked server rooms and authenticated out-of-band management. Fourth, use full disk encryption so data stays protected even if an attacker reaches a recovery shell. And fifth, disable root logins over SSH and use sudo instead. Here is the entire recovery in one line to remember it. At Grub, press E. Change RO to RW. Add init equals /bin/bash. Press Ctrl X. At the shell, if needed, remount root read-write. Run password wd root. Touch .auto relabel and exec/sbin/init. That is it. A 10-minute procedure that saves you from a full reinstall. Remember the golden rule. Recover only systems you own or are authorized to fix. Thank you for following along. Happy learning!